Hey guys, welcome to another edition of On Social, the show that talks about everything that has to do with social media, live video, professional live video on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, you name it, we're there. So I want to introduce my partner in crime here today. We've got Mr. Marty McPadden from PodJam.tv. Welcome.
That that's a good word for it, Steven. Partner in crime.
Partner, well, you're my partner in crime today because Jeff had some family business that he had to take care of, and obviously, family comes first. But we wanted to. This is actually let me preface it like this. This was actually a subject he wanted to talk about, uh, because it's really big, and as you guys can see on the lower third, is content king, Marty. We talk about this a lot, you and I, off the record, off of the show, and I
Mhm.
think a lot of people, they get wrapped up around followers and likes and all this other stuff. And we see many, many profiles out there where people got 20, 30,000 followers and the engagement is like very, very little. Um, so we wanted to talk about that today. And I know you kind of put some pointers together. So I'm going to kind of let you lead this discussion and we'll see what the chat room thinks as well.
Absolutely. So this is I think of this, Steven, as like unplugged. So I'm not coming in with any fancy graphics. More like a kind of heart to heart talk between. We talk about this all the time, off channel, and this subject, and it's so important, especially for people. And this show obviously is directed toward, a lot of people are just starting out, and they look at people that are very successful. We've talked about this many times, where you have all the big community and they think it's overnight, and we know all the reasons why. I think a lot of people then start to go, well, man, this is taking so long, I need to have shortcuts. And I've seen a lot of people do this where they resort to gaming likes or subscribers or views, and they just concentrate on the raw numbers. And especially when it comes to likes or shares or even subscribers for that matter. um, the numbers are great, and sometimes they're an indication of maybe how well you're doing, how well you're resonating. But the way I look at it is, and I marked this, and forgive me for looking at my notes. I look at it as, and I'm going to use a house and building metaphor here for the entire discussion. But it's sort of like building a house without a foundation. Eventually, it'll fall down, right? So just if you just concentrate on subscribers, subscriber numbers, likes, they're really just numbers without engagement, right? And you've heard us talk about engagement before, Stephen. We talk about it
Yep.
all the time. You know, the likes are kind of indication, but if you're not truly engaging with the audience, I mean, we say hello to folks. What's great about social video is you have that engagement part built in to the kind of the platforms that you're broadcasting on. So Facebook and YouTube and all the they have comments. You can talk back and forth in real time. I mean, as we're doing the show here, you know, we're looking at the comments as we can, but you have that discussion going on. And without that engagement or knowing that the content that you're producing is actually something that the community wants to watch and finds valuable, then the likes and the subscriber numbers mean nothing, because you can have people hit that subscribe button. If they never come back and watch another video or other content from me, what good is it?
Right.
Or say if you're in business, right? And maybe you're trying to get sponsorship, then it's just fake. And then eventually, as I said, no foundation. You might have a really gorgeous house and it might be standing up, it might be like almost like a Hollywood set where it's a false front. Then it's just it's gonna fall down, and then you're there basically naked and nothing's there. It's like the emperor with no clothes, right? I mean, Steven, I mean, we talked about this before. So, I mean, I know you have something to add on this as well.
Well, we see this a lot, right? We get these self-made influencers out there, and this is not a slam or dig against any people out there that you're considered an influencer, and I'm not a big fan of that word, so you'll hear me kind of chuckle when I say that a little bit. But in all fairness, the guys that have the true followings, you'll see, you know, um, like I've got a prime example, Marty, on one of my pages, I have about 5,000 likes on it, and my outdoor stuff, right? So if I post something, an animal related or something that has to do with hunting and fishing, I'll get a good 2/3 of the people that like that page to engage with that, whether it's sharing it, whether it's just them seeing it, or whether they're actually commenting. I've gone to pages that have like 30 to 40,000 people that supposedly like it, and they'll get maybe 5 comments on it. Maybe, if they're lucky. So I start to ask myself, I go, okay, so if they have 40,000 likes to this page, but nobody's engaging, what's the problem? Is this something that I can take serious? This person or this company, right? So, or like as you said, are they gaming the system? And it's a tough one. It really is because I would rather have like the 2,000 likes that I have on what my personal the Tech Buzz page or whatever, and engage with those people than to have 20,000 and nobody talks to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to emphasize the point you just raised, right? So you can have, a large amount of likes. Like if you're talking about a Facebook page, large amount of likes, so you're, 5,000. I mean, I've seen pages with five-figure like totals, and I've seen this too, Stephen, that a post would get like just a handful of engagement. It's like, something's wrong with this picture? What's going on here, right? And they're not necessarily going to say anything to you, but
Right.
people start to wonder,
Yeah.
how real is this? And it's not even a question where it's not, you don't even need that many raw numbers. It's just more about engagement. One of the things I do as part of my business, I produce podcasts, and a lot of the podcasts I produce are very specialized for the clients that are doing them. And we're not talking huge numbers, but a lot of it is very focused engagement. And a lot of podcasts I work on get sponsorships, and because it's a very focused audience and it's all real, but it's not millions, and so I think people, you put the cart before the horse. I think people are so locked in to getting those numbers up
Yep.
instead of doing the best you can with the people you already have. Because and we'll get into a little further, the community, yeah, as you build a community, they're going to help you build the rest of the house, and we'll get into this as we go along. But I can't agree with you more, and it kind of leads into our second point, where you say content is still, and I would propose this. Let's throw this out. Let's have a debate, and you put this in the title of the show. I say content is still king, and for a very good reason. Instead of gaming likes or work on producing content your audience finds helpful and valuable. That's really what's going to gain you engagement and gain you support. And I'll go back to the house analogy, right? That building that foundation is key. And also your community will help you build your house. So once you have, it's like getting that content down is like building the foundation. You have a nice solid structure there, and then your community, as you build your community, they'll help you build your house. And as you build the house, it's real because you have a solid foundation. It's not going
Right.
to come crumbling down. You know what I mean? So, and it doesn't have to be huge numbers. Like, and I'll throw you out as an example. Like you mentioned the outdoors. I remember when you first started that, you started from zero. I mean, it was always an interest of yours, but you didn't have a community built around outdoors. It was built around tech.
Right.
But because you took it one step at a time, and you were focused on how can I serve this community, and you mentioned some of the numbers, like man, it kind of just happened because
Yep.
you took it seriously. You took the community serious. You took the value of your content seriously.
Well, and I think too, like even this show, right? So, we get decent numbers, for doing it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But really, the numbers for this show come in after the fact because there's people that are watching, that can't watch because they're at work. They have a job that doesn't, allow them to sit and watch a show like this. Um, and so it's easy to get discouraged when you see, oh, there's 20 viewers watching here. But when you look at the numbers after the fact that people are tuning in and they're watching this in as we call it reruns or replay or on demand, people are sending emails saying, "Hey, we really enjoyed your show. We thought it was really good. The content was there." Marty, you said you think that content is king. I mean, that's kind of what we have as the title is content king. I think there's one step further, and maybe I think that you could have all the content in the world, but if your personality is something that people can't listen to or people can't, um, connect with, I don't think all the content in the world is going to make you somebody that's going to be watchable or listenable. In my opinion, I think it's a I hear people say all the time, content's king, and I do agree with that. But I also think that there's more to it, and I don't think people talk about that enough. Um, and you might disagree with
Yeah,
that, but I kind of I think that there's like a total package with that, and I don't know what the chat room thinks with that as well.
yeah. I mean, I'll add on to that there, and I think I know where you're going with this. Just putting out content for the sake of putting out content without having an objective and a plan, and really actually serving your community and listening to your community is really just kind of wasted time
Right.
because you don't even know if they really want it, or if you're putting out content just to meet a schedule
Yep.
and it's subpar and it's not something that meets your standard, then that's kind of a waste of time too. And
Hmm.
and if you think you're just putting out quantity just to me, oh, I want to boost my likes, and I'll put out a bunch of quantity, and maybe that'll boost my likes, my numbers. It may in the short term, but it's not. It's really not a lasting strategy because people are gonna catch on to that you really don't care. And I think the other part is when you're saying about connecting with the host or connecting with your audience, part of it is just being, authenticity gets thrown out around a lot, that word, but it's that it's really important. People can tell, you know, and we've talked about this in other shows where unless you're putting on some type of performance, maybe doing a play or whatever, and you're acting, that's one thing. But if you're doing a show like this, and a lot of people that watch the show are doing real content about real life issues and real life things, um, you just got to be yourself, man, and you're gonna attract the right audience. And if you're always putting on an act, unless you're like a Academy Award winner actor acting, people can see right through it,
Yeah.
and just don't be afraid. And you'll attract the right people, and the people that don't connect with you, they'll fall away. But there's an audience for everybody, and
And
I think the key is being real clear about who you are.
yeah.
And this is what I always preach about what your content is that you turn your interests into, you have the video background, but then you also have you're an outdoorsman, you're a hunter, you have a great deal of interest there. You turn that into a whole project there, and you created this community. Uh, Also the retro gaming, that's an interest of yours, and what you're doing, you're very authentic. It's an interest, and you just share it,
And
and you're not really worried about a timeline, and you build it over time.
and I know Joe Zahitis, he put it in, apparently it didn't show up in Facebook, but he says in the Discord, he said, value is king. The value of your content to the community that you're looking to serve. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And I kind of want to put it out to you guys. You've been watching this show. It's been morphed. We're on episode 36. We started out in the beginning. We started talking about cameras and video gear and getting you to the point now where, okay, what do I do with it? We've talked about how to build your video to look really awesome, and then what do we do with it? So we started to go down this road. But how many of you guys in there do you guys think that you want to see more content that has to do with video production? I mean, this is something that we kind of struggle with, when producing shows like this, is because it's like, okay, it's like what does the community want? Do they want to see shows about the cool gear and adding, you know, uh, this camera, this type of camera, or the types of microphones that are out there, the types of cameras that are out there? But then we get feedback, Marty, that from the community, like, hey, we want to know what to do with that content, and how to make our
Mhm.
content that much better. So that's where we live by the community. We want to know what you guys want from this show and from us, because I mean, Marty, we're fortunate that Telestream has kind of gotten behind us to do this show, and we thank them for allowing us to do it. But as Marty just stated, we don't want to just come on here and just throw content out there and hope that it sticks. It's like throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. We want to give you guys something that you actually want. And so any feedback that you can give us, whether it's in the chat room here or sending an email, is something that we definitely would want, right?
Absolutely. There's a comment here on Facebook from Dennis. And Dennis, I'm gonna murder your name. Uh, Polet Poliet.
Sure.
forgive me, Dennis, but we do a lot of corporate streams with 15 to 20,000 employee meetings, and our clients are always ask why their numbers are lower than they thought they'd get. Timing, content control, timing and content control the viewership of an event. Hold on, I'm reading this right. Timing and content control the viewership of the event. Um,
But it's the
and
timing,
I'm not sure
it's
if I'm
it's the timing and, the content control of the viewership of the event. So,
right,
it is. It's
right.
all timing, just like us. We're doing this at 2 in the
Yep,
afternoon. Most people are still at work, but people do go back and watch it. So I 100% agree with that,
yep, absolutely, absolutely.
And what did
Um,
Joe said something there too. I didn't get to see that.
yeah, Joe said it's not a Wirecast show, but I love the hints and tricks like how Stephen Haywood does in Wirecast. Some of the buttons and transitions, gears as well. So he and Joe's right. I mean, he's saying, it's not a Wirecast show per se, but I think there are people that like the tips and tricks. Certainly, and Dennis adds these events are usually done during the workday. Yes, and I think what he's saying is I think his clients are expecting a lot more viewership, and their expectations don't match up with the reality. I guess so.
Well, and
Um,
I think it takes time to be a thought leader, to be honest, to be
yep,
somebody that is looked upon in the industry. I've been doing this for a little over 12 years in the broadcast community, where I've been looked upon as somebody that knows what they're doing with broadcasting. And it didn't come overnight, man. It came from constantly getting on air, constantly doing videos, and you got to balance a day life, a day job, a family. It's not easy, and I think that it's you know, just taking your time, and like he said, kind of the luck of when to do it, right? And get, kind of things out there to where you can get the support. And fortunately, we've been very fortunate to get the support of Telestream. And I want to kind of, if you were in pre-show, I want to kind of throw this out to you guys. Um, Jeremy also put a picture in there, and we'll kind of get to that. But I received my Wirecast Gear, the new Wirecast Gear, yesterday. As you guys can see, I've got it set up there with Wirecast and the X keys. You can also run it with Stream Deck, and this is the brand new box from the folks over at Telestream. This is an incredible box, as we were talking about in pre-show. Just a little bit. I played with it yesterday, and I still got to do a bunch of videos for Telestream with it, as well as do a review video, and then get it up in the rack and get everything wired in for the studio. But big difference from this version of the Wirecast Gear, uh, from the original Wirecast Gear, and I encourage any of you guys. Marty and I both are using Gear One right now in production, but if you go over to the website, if you want to go over, check out telestream.net/on social. If you head on over there and you kind of want to get some more information about this, our sales team, and I think Jeremy's in the chat room even, he'll get this email and he'll be able to kind of go over your options or maybe your workflows with you on the new Wirecast Gear. And just to kind of give you an example, Marty, I called him up on the phone last night. He was on a train headed back from one of his jobs, and I got on FaceTime. I'm like, you need to see this. I said, I'm bringing in two NDI sources, but we're just going to record one. It was 1080p 30, and we're looking at the CPU because we're using the NVIDIA graphics card that's in it. Now, mind you, this is the 420. This is the 10,000, almost $10,000 model, which as a broadcaster, you can't skimp on that. You want to go with the highest, in a studio like environment like I'm in. You want to go with the highest. And I showed Marty. I says, hey, look at the CPU. It was bouncing between 2 and 5% CPU, no drop frames, and it was just incredible. And Marty has the ability to go out to multiple monitors, so I can get my preview monitors and things like that, and the TV behind me. Um, Very, very impressed with this machine thus far. Now, again, I haven't spent a ton of time with it, but I think a lot of you guys, you would be very impressed with a machine like this. Maybe you don't have the skills and the knowledge to build a PC, or find the right Mac. Maybe the Mac is out of your scope as far as financial. I'm telling you, check out the Wirecast Gear. Head over there, go to telestream.net/on social, fill out that form, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I mean, Marty, you were pretty impressed with it just by the little bit we were looking on FaceTime.
I was amazed. I mean, and really what it comes down to for me, well, first of all, I'm impressed with the size of it because I take my gear on the road, and so it looks like this gear continues that tradition, and it fits in a the size of a case that's a carry-on that you can actually carry on a flight, which is very very handy. But what the thing I think that's a huge advantage here is it's the marriage of software and hardware, right? So you're doing video, you're doing multiple inputs, multiple streams. This is not something that you can just do on some laptop or something that's not spec'd out properly. It's still a lot, very processor intensive stuff. You're doing a lot of stuff here, and
Mhm.
that's the huge advantage. Is that Telestream has actually married this together, and for mission critical applications, there's a lot to be said for it. Is it an investment? Yes, but there's a reason for that. Because you need it to work every time. And I can tell you, just on Gear One, I take it on the road. I never have to worry about it because I know it's all self-contained. I set it up. I do my thing, pack it up, ready to go. I mean, and I'm doing it for business. So for those mission critical things, you got to invest in your tools and you got to make sure. I mean, and what's great about Wirecast, and that's a good example right there. What you're showing there
That's
is it's in
Jeremy's
a
Jeremy's
travel
send up.
case. Yeah,
Yep.
and that's kind of it's all together and you can travel with it. That's, a high-end use case for it. But again, it uses the same software that you use. So say if you start out with Wirecast, maybe you start out with Wirecast 1, the entry level. The good news is it grows with you, so you can start and you can kind of grow in the different versions of Wirecast, and then obviously you have the hardware solution. So Stephen, you bring a good point. While you can run it on a PC or Mac, you just got to make sure you have the right horsepower. Make sure you're matching the hardware with the software. That's all stuff you have to be concerned about. And this kind of takes it to a different level and takes that out of the equation where you don't that doesn't become a concern and it's going to work every time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with it. And I'm just I know you're gonna have more videos on it, more to come, but I think Telestream has really I mean, version 2, you're setting the bar so high, which is great. So
Well, and something you gotta be going into your last point here when you're talking about how content is still king, and if you're watching the show right now, obviously you take your content seriously. If you're watching shows like this, not just this show, but if you're watching other shows, you're taking content seriously. You need to make the investment at some point into something like this. And this isn't about being a salesman. That's not my job. That's not what we're doing here. But you want to take it to the next level, right, Marty? I mean, you don't want to just sit there and have this shaky video, this scratchy audio that nobody can listen to. You want to take it to the next level, and there's a lot of content creators out there that that's how you're going to get that engagement. That's how we get the engagement here is by creating good quality, high end professional video on these platforms. You have to be able to stand out. We talked about that last week, right? You want to be able to stand out from the crowd, stand out from those that are doing something. So if you have a business, you want to stand out. You want to be different. You want to set the bar, as Marty said, what Telestream has done, set the bar high. You want to set the bar high for your content, right?
yeah, you gotta make also like in business, you gotta make sure everything works.
Yes.
Reliability is key. And that's one of the big advantages is that it's gonna work every time. You pull it out, it's all self-contained and you're ready to go, So that's a huge and I've used it personally, I've used it on the road, and I can tell you from experience, it hasn't let me ever since I've started using it, and I've used Wirecast in various business situations through a computer, through my MacBook, and it works wonderfully. But having the gearbox is a whole different level, and it just has really streamlined my workflow in these jobs. I do a lot of jobs on the road, and it's just fantastic. And like what you were saying, Stephen, it kind of brings us to our third point.
Mhm.
We talk a lot about building the house, building that foundation, letting your community help you build it. But without maintenance, what do you got?
Yep.
You're still gonna have problems, right? So maintaining your content house is critical here. Again, you might have a solid foundation, you might have a great house, it might be beautiful. Without proper maintenance, it'll crumble. If you're not taking care of it, it'll crumble. Um, this means engaging with the community. getting them. They're kind of like your maintenance crew. You work together. Nothing great is done alone. So that's why the engagement part of this is so critical. Engagement in the community. They want to be part of it, and make them part of it. And they can be your mate. You all together can be the maintenance crew. Um, Maintain and help build the community. Listen to your community. That's one way, right? They will lead you. You're not going to do it by yourself. They will lead you. They will lead you through. And I know, Stephen, I'm just a good example. Again, what you do with your outdoors and the retro gaming, you're a great listener to your community, and I think you're seeing it pay off.
Yeah.
And the community sees it pay us off, and the people, the retro gaming especially with you do a roundtable show and getting those guys to come in, and I think they're seeing it because you're demonstrating it, right? And you're consistent every week.
And we have an interesting format with that because with that we'll do an hour of straight content where we go through different news items, kind of like what we're doing now with different points. But Marty, what we do is we also open it up in the post show for people to be able to call in and ask either if we have a celebrity guest on or even one of the panelists some kind of question. We allow for that. And maybe we need to do a show like that for this, where if we can get the guaranteed people to call in, would you guys like that? If you're watching this, say on YouTube, or if you're watching this on Vimeo after the fact, Facebook, wherever you're watching it, leave a comment below. Let us know. Would you like a call-in show where once a month maybe we do a call-in show where you call in and ask us, anything about your content, whether it's production, whether it's social media based, and that doesn't mean we have all the answers, but if we'll
But
at
they
least
have to
find it.
call in though.
Means you have to call in. That's
But
right. Yeah.
But they have to
You
go
have
in.
to call in.
Don't let us just sitting here with like, we put the number up, right? See, I can imagine that. Like, that's kind of the fear, like, put the number up, like, "Okay, guys, call in. We're ready to take your questions." And like crickets, so it's
Yeah.
like, you gotta call in. But I love that. I think that's a great idea, and you mentioned that that's a good capper
To
here.
get the community
That's a
involved.
great example
Yeah.
of engagement in the community, right? That's what's possible with social video.
And you can join the way our system's set up. You can join from a phone. You can join from a tablet, a computer. Um, so there's a lot of ways that again, content is king, and people are going to also engage with you if they like your personality, if they think that they can learn something from you. So content's one thing, but just doing something like that where it's off the cuff, I've learned that you gain a lot of respect from people, Marty, when like we used to do on Blab years ago, we'd get on there and people would just come into we called it the hot seat. And they would just ask us
Yeah.
anything about broadcasting. And if I didn't know and you knew, you would kind of and we built an audience over that just because of that. And they're like, man, these guys know what they're talking about. And
We
I
go
think
hours.
we would absolutely go for hours. And I think that if you can do something like that, no matter what your field is in the content that you're creating, you're going to build that interaction. You're going to get the people to come in and watch what you're doing or engage with you. I see that on YouTube a lot. A lot of people, Marty. One of the things that I learned, and I'm not a YouTube guy, so I just want to state that. But a lot of the guys I'm doing video with on the retro show are YouTubers, and and I said to them, "How do you guys get people to comment so much on your YouTube videos?" And they said, "We answer every comment. That's whether it's negative or positive on that video in YouTube. We answer those questions, or we at least go in and interact with it." And I was like, I had never done that before. I just leave my videos up and however many, but I notice now if I interact with the people that are commenting, I get more and more comments. So
Yeah.
there's a great tip for you guys. And I don't pretend to know everything about YouTube, but it was just something. It's like you would think that it's kind of common sense. You answer questions, people are going to ask more. But I think we overlook that sometimes, Marty.
Yeah, it just takes it just be prepared to work at it. And that's why I think we talked about this in the past. That's why it's important to pick things that you really like. I really like to do because you can do a lot of it. If you're just picking stuff to you think that something's popular, that's going to get likes and subscribers, and you're not really into it, and you're not really fully committed. I use Mark Rogers as an example all the time about college football. That's something he's passionate about, and as soon as he got focused on that, things started taking off, and he would do it for free. And same thing with you, Stephen, with the topics that you decide to create content about. that's everything, you
Yep.
know, and but you also have to do the work, and that's a great example you said about the comments. That's it just takes you just gotta be ready to devote the time, you know, I mean, there's no way around it early, and especially in the early days, and especially when you're just starting out, you're probably not getting that many comments where you can't come in and engage with people individually. You know, as you grow, hopefully, then, it becomes more of a challenge, but that's what it's all about. You know, that's just how social video and social content works, if you really wanna build it.
And I think we kind of got the consensus here in the chat room is they'd love to see a call-in show. So it's something we're going to have to look toward here in the future
Yeah.
here of On Social. And again, we really appreciate everybody that comes out and watches this show. Again, send me your setups. Send an email, stevenh@telestream.net. Send your business, whatever you're doing that you want to showcase, and even if you want to come on the show and talk about how you're making strides and making things happen in the social sphere with using live video. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get you on here. But again, Marty, it's about that time. We got to wrap things up. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with Marty, check him out, podjam.tv, and you can look for him everywhere on social media, Marty McPadden. And I encourage you guys to connect with him. Um, Great to have you with you as always, but you won't be here next week.
Next 2 weeks, I'm on the road doing jobs, so I'll be back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I
You'll be
forget
back
what
in
the date is.
the end of February, right? Yeah. So he's going to be in what? You're in Miami next week, and where are you the following week?
And yeah, New York, the following week.
New York the following week. So we want to Marty. We do have a special guest next week. Sean Zerley will be going to join us to talk about some social media stuff, and she's never been on the show before, so it'll be great. It'll be a new experience next week. So it kind of worked out great because you guys weren't able to join. I thought we'd have this big round table, but it's gonna be fun. But don't worry, she'll be back on. When you guys are able to come on too. But we encourage you guys to go over to the Facebook page, Telestream, and like that page. Also, Telestream Wirecast. If you go like that page, go over and check us out on LinkedIn and on YouTube. We have a lot of tutorials that are going to be going up on our YouTube page for Wirecast Gear as well as Wirecast. I'm going to be putting together some tutorials for that, so you definitely want to go subscribe and get plugged in because I know a lot of you guys just mentioned how you'd love to have some more tutorials and things like that. So know that it's coming. Um, we have a lot of great content coming for you. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. We'll see you next time.